All right. Good morning. Appreciate everybody being here today. Coming off Saturday, much like I said in post game, disappointing outcome, disappointing performance. Really all three phases. Had elements of just opportunities, but obviously not the results necessary to be able to achieve success. And Carolina did a good job in their game plan and their execution, and won the game, in really all three phases for what we needed, what we set out to accomplish, and just did not play or coach well enough in that game to be victorious. And so, obviously with that, you continue to evaluate, learn, work to grow. I mean, we still have 3 games left in the season, and you have opportunity to go and get better. And that is my sole purpose, my sole focus is for everything that we have, for these players that I get to coach, to go pour everything I have into them, to make sure that we are taking the positive strides and steps to improvement. And each individual has ownership of action. Each individual has to make the choice of the investment of what's being poured in, and then obviously the application of the whether it's the things we're asking guys to do in practice, or whether it's application of schemes, of the application of things that are necessary for us to go play complementary football to achieve victory. And we've not done that throughout the course of this season, and we've had plenty of circumstances that have showed up. That was our 8th different starting offensive line lineup that we've had in 9 games. We had two more starters that were out, which definitely had an effect. But it's ultimately opportunities for other guys, young guys, to get their chance to show, and to be able to go out there and compete, to put their best on display. And we just have not been consistent enough across the board on really either side of the ball for what is expected and what we need to be. And so all of our focus and work goes into to today. And obviously we came back, we practiced yesterday, we went to work, jumping into this week. We have to go on the road against another really good opponent, and we're going to go put everything that we have into putting ourselves in the best position to achieve success this week. And that is our focus as a team, and focus of every individual part of the program.
All right, first question will be Ira, second row on your right. It seemed like in some of these games, particularly the Miami game, that felt like the defense kind of gave you guys a chance to try to figure things out on offense. This week, it seemed like both sides of the ball kind of faltered. Do you think that the offensive struggles are now taking their toll on how the defense is playing?
No. Everybody's, each side of the ball is independent of itself. We've not played good complementary football, throughout the course of the year. And you go back and you look at it, our success after offensive scoring drives has been really, really poor. We haven't gotten, 3 and outs. We haven't, we've given up scoring drives, as a result after an offensive score, which, obviously you need to be able to, in those moments, try to build upon the momentum. After a team scores, we have not responded well, offensively like we need to. And so, when you look at it, we just haven't been able to build upon, the momentum on either side when we've had opportunities to make plays. There was 3 different times, I thought we had a chance to intercept a pass on Saturday, and there was multiple times where on third downs that we had a chance to be able to get off the field, and we did not make the play or execute there in the moment for in critical situations for what was necessary. And I don't think that one side of the ball has something to do with the other, because ultimately it's just you got to go out there and you got to play the game, and everybody's performance is theirs, and you got to own it. And there were some good moments for individuals. There were some positive things that you can draw from it throughout the contest. But then there were some things that unacceptable, and that we have to be better at, and just you have to take ownership of what the action was, whether it was a play call, whether it was something that you did as a player, on the field that was not to the best of your ability. And sometimes as a technique, a fundamental, an opportunity to make a play to finish in the moment, and that's what we all have to own, and we have to go and grow and be better, and that's the focus.
All right, next will be Brendan, front row on your left.
With the amount of young players that you've played this season, I guess how important is it going to be for the future of the program to, one, continue to get solid, constructive reps with them, but then twofold, to be able to retain them and keep building with them for the future?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's every play, every day, every practice, is critical for each player on our team. But I mean, especially those young guys that are getting opportunities, in game. It's just you got to be able to build upon it. And I think these guys have done a nice job in their approach and how they've come to practice, how they've come to work, in trying to understand the areas that maybe they need a bigger emphasis in their growth, and some of it's just going to be physical, mental, just continuing to adjust to the speed of what you see on a Saturday. But I am excited about that young group, and you look at really the last two classes, those guys that are either freshmen, redshirt freshmen, or the true sophomores. I mean, that's those. We got a lot of really good football players in that group, and those are going to be guys that I absolutely believe, as I spoke on Saturday, they're going to be a part of our response as a program for what we're going to do and what we're going to be able to accomplish. And everybody's at a different place in their journey, and some of those guys are playing a lot. Some of those guys have yet to play, but really excited about those two groups of what we were able to put together in those classes, and it's critical for their continued development, that they just every day stay focused on what they can control, and maximizing the opportunities that they do get.
All right, stay there for Chris.
From a purely physical standpoint, was Saturday up to the standard you want? And with Notre Dame, how much of a challenge is that? Because obviously they play pretty hard-nosed football.
No, I mean there were times in the game where I did not like the physicality that we put on display, and I think there were some good moments. There were times that we were playing very physical, but had maybe a lapse in judgment of what whether it was a gap to fit, or where maybe trying to do too much that opened up a seam or an opportunity for our opponent. But definitely plays that, going back and seeing them on Saturday, that I was displeased with, and then obviously going back and watching it on film, it's that's where we are in control of that, and and for each player. And I told the team yesterday, I mean, there is an expectation of what it needs to look like, and you're making sure that you put everything that you have into each play, even if it is after a negative. There's going to be times you might get beat on a play. You might have something that you didn't desire, you didn't want, happen to you, but Lord willing, you get one more play. What's it going to look like, and how are you going to respond in that situation? And there is. I know we talked a little bit after the game about just the confidence of some of our players, and really in some aspects just our team. And it's been a challenging year in a lot of ways when it comes to that. And these guys, they deal with a lot of different things, externally, internally, within their own mind of what they want it to look like. And at times when it doesn't, that's where you got to stay true to who you are. You got to stay true to what you believe, and just put everything that you have into just going to control the next thing that you can. And that's the next rep. That's the next play, the next practice, the day that you have of putting everything in and just going to get better. And I do think there's been times where that's been shaken a little bit, and just to say pullback, hesitation, and it's that's shown. I think that hesitation has shown up in not wanting to have the negative, or not wanting to have that experience, and that's where you have to just move past that. And nobody's in a place where we want to be right now. But you get an opportunity to go play this game, you get an opportunity to go compete, you get an opportunity to go and get better, and that's what I obviously I'm demanding and expecting to see in all things that we're doing.
All right, we'll go to Jordan on the third row.
Coach, a two-part question. You only had 8 completions against UNC, only 11 against Miami the week before. Are there ways that you guys can scheme up easier completions to get the pass game going? And then along with that, are you still confident in running the 2-quarterback system throughout the rest of the season?
Obviously that's, our completions, being able to have some balance in what we're doing and, being able to, get the passing game going. I mean, there's a lot of different elements that have showed up. That's kind of limited at here the last couple of weeks. There's been times where, it's been, lack of separation, in routes or, just some of the finer details of what we're trying to do when it comes to spacing and getting the ball out. There's been protection issues. There's been times that we've not been on time where we need to be, or maybe our eyes haven't been exactly where they need to be when it comes to just the efficiency of the passing game. And we all get to take a part of that. And obviously as coaches, it's our job to put guys in a position to be able to go and to be able to get in rhythm and to be able to go out there and be able to execute. And with the quarterbacks, it's I think both those guys have shown moments and flashes of potential. And like I said, last week, Luke was limited and really a little unknown certainty of just availability for the game, and so that was a part of of his week. But I think. Brock did some good things in the game, and vertically pushing the ball down the field. There's obviously some plays that he'd like to have back in the game, and some missed opportunities. And obviously Luke, he had his there's some challenging moments for him, and a couple of really good moments. And so for those guys, it's there's a lot of different factors when it comes to our offense that where they can be better, where they can obviously continue to grow, and then the people surrounding them have to continue to help support that and help that position. We get an opportunity and being able to have balance in the run game, be getting that established will obviously open up more opportunities there in the passing game. And but yeah, it's for sure something that we need to be more efficient in our passing game.
I'll go back to your right for Ira.
You mentioned that you've been evaluating things and trying to figure out, not just focus on now, but also look ahead to the future. But what would you say to the fans who maybe have already bought tickets for these last few games at home, but it's still an expense and it's still an effort to come up here and to buy tickets in packages for next year because they don't know what your plans are. Like how do you expect them to believe that you're going to make changes or do whatever you're going to do when they can't see it yet?
Yeah, because everything we're doing right now is to give our players this year for the games that they're coming to here at our next 2 home games is to do everything we can to go put ourselves in a position to win, to be successful, to pour into these players, to give them an opportunity to go put on display the best of who they are and what they're about. And I do believe in that group. And it's been a really tough season. And I mean. Like I said, for our fan base, I mean, I understand the frustration. I mean, there's no fan that's more frustrated than I am. Right? There's nobody that's pouring more into what these players in this program than what our staff is. And I watch the work, and has it been good enough? No, it hasn't. We haven't had the results that any of us desire, or that what needs to be expected here. But we are going to pour all that we have into making sure for these games to finish the season, it's the best that we got. And we put ourselves in a position to go achieve success in these next 3 games. And it all starts going on the road this week. And, on the flip side of it, I am aware of, where we are, the things that have happened, some of the things that, that I'm evaluating throughout the course of the season, evaluating over the course of the last few years of, one, why did this happen? Why have we come up short? And then what are the issues and what can be done, changed, addressed, all of it that's going to allow us to take a monumental step, here this next year and for the future of the program. And, I do believe in the guys that are in that locker room, right? I do believe in the potential of what we have we've got to do a better job of making sure that the application of the things that we work, the things that we train, the things that we do, the evaluation of how the positions we're putting guys in, and sometimes the guys that that we have, where can we improve that? And all those factors are going to be, I guess, continue to be evaluated, and then I can tell you that there's going to be there's going to be a change in what we've seen from this year to this next year coming up. But and right now my entire focus is going to be on what's ahead for these next 3 games to go be the best we can be.
A few injury questions. I guess how's Justin Cryer? I know that looked pretty serious on Saturday. And then Maurice, I don't know where his status is coming into the week. If you think you might have him available again this week.
Yeah, Justin, preliminary was probably a little bit better than what I feared. Just being out there on the field with him. But it's going to be, he'll be out this week, and we'll see what the extent of that is. For the long term, but it was definitely a scary situation, going out there and being with them. But there was preliminary, just diagnosis and the things that we've seen is a little bit better than what what it could have been. And obviously, it's still something that we'll work through with him, and as it moves forward, and then with the guys that missed the game, this last week, we'll continue to evaluate them as we jump into this week, and hopefully you have an opportunity to get those guys. Maurice and Rob, were unavailable, for the game, and then we'll see what that looks like here this week.
All right, we'll go to Corey on the second row.
Mike, when you talked about the quarterbacks, how hard is it to even evaluate how well they're playing in the game if things aren't going well around them?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, to me, it's not. I mean, I'm watching them. I know what they're being asked to do. I know. You see the intent. You see the things that they can control, and how they are executing that. They don't control receiver separation. They don't control protection all the time. There are some things that in the sacks that we gave up the other day. There were 2 that were on one run pass reads that one could have made a better decision. Another one, we didn't get any separation and didn't win a one-on-one, and the quarterback held the ball and got sacked on. And so, there were also, a couple times where, you have coverage opportunities and things that where we can move better or, just be on time and on rhythm. And then there's times we just got beat, up front. And so, you look for the quarterbacks of saying, all right, are you controlling the things that you can control? And, there's been a lot of plays, really from both those guys where they have made something happen when maybe there wasn't much there. And, they've been able to create either an explosive play or they've been able to, generate a positive. And then, there's still, like I said, there's times that, where they get to grow and they get to be better and they get to see the importance of maybe the efficiency of a drop or where they're starting their eyes or, going through a progression, and just, all those things for a young quarterback. Those can be monumental steps for them as they build in that confidence. But it's really just you got to control the things that you can control, and I get a pretty good evaluation of them. Obviously we haven't done well offensively, so it's it's sometimes you got to look past the immediate result to what are they being asked to do to evaluate that position. And I definitely have been proud of the work those guys have put in, and I think they're both very talented young men.
All right, we'll go to Aslan in the back right.
You mentioned your optimism overall and how what this team is capable of, and you see some good things at practice. So just week to week, how surprised are you at where you guys are? Or if you would have known in July that you're going to have this offensive line that was going to constantly have change and receivers that couldn't get separation, would that have made sense if you're going to be dealing with that stuff to be where you're at, or would you have had faith in the talent and the coaches you have to overcome those challenges?
All right. I am shocked in where we are, and it was not expected. And you look at some of the results that we faced. You look at some of the circumstances that have shown up. That you go into a season and you have a picture in your mind of what things are going to look like. And it's not. I'm not not blind to it. Like I said, I'm optimistic, but also know challenges. And I knew there was going to be some, anybody asked me for a season, my concerns is, what was it going to look like in the moment, maybe when things went well or when things didn't go well. And, we had a very talented group that left this past year. A lot of those guys are, showing that they were really good players in the moment, and guys that have been very productive for us, in the past, that are now in new roles and new opportunities and new supporting cast of guys that are there next to them. And I don't think we've handled the negative or the defeat well in being able to bounce back from that. And I thought there's been a lot of times where we've had guys that have been pressing. We've had a good number of injuries, and we have three two of our top three running backs coming into the season we're done for the year after a couple games. I mean, we had a couple playmakers that we expected that would have good seasons here at last January that that are not available. And I mean, obviously the challenges that we've had on the offensive line and some of the injuries that we've had, it's hard to maintain continuity there. And it's some parts of it we just haven't been good enough. And so it really has been shocking, some of the things that have kind of evolved throughout this season as we've experienced the defeat, as we've lacked the progression of what anybody wants to see. But it is it's one of those things that I don't always have the answer of why that some of these situations or circumstances occurred, but you continue to go to work, you continue to try to put guys in the best position, and it does look different than what I anticipated. If you know all the challenges that are going to show up at the back end of it, would you do a couple things different? Would you look at a couple different schemes or things that you can plug in? I mean, yeah, of course, but that's part of going through the process of a season, and obviously it's not gone very, very well for us, and just the different elements that have showed up.
I've got time for a couple more. We'll come back to Kurt on the front row.
Looking at two guys, LT and Ja'Kai, who've been here, only a handful of guys who've been here the whole time. I mean, they obviously, I'm sure this isn't how they imagined their last season going, and yet they're still out there making plays. They seem to, be two of the more impactful players and really fighting each and every week. I guess what's that say about them, and how much can they be an example you point to for the younger guys of just what you're looking for?
Well, I mean, it just those guys care, and and I'll tell you, for as bad as our record is, and as bad as the results have been, I feel our team and the care that they have for each other, and I see it in their work, and I see that the investment of the coaches pouring into our players and trying to connect with them where they are and just help them go and work to be better. And like I said, it's not for players, for coaches, none of it hasn't translated the way that we want it to that level, but it's a willingness to continue to invest. And for those guys, and I love them. I mean, they came in that first class, and they've been a huge part in helping the positive, winning 19 games in a row, winning an ACC championship, and all of that. And even through the negative of what is now their senior year of a result, they are pouring their hearts into this program. They're pouring their hearts into each other, and it's a great example for those young players. And it's something that being a part of a team is special. And sometimes when you face the disappointing results, you get to show just the amount of care that you have by what you're willing to continue to invest on a daily basis. And those guys have been remarkably consistent. And we've had guys that have joined the program even here a year ago. I think you look at guys like Malik, Sione. I mean, those guys. They're putting it on the line. They've only been here for a year, and in each game, in each practice, it's definitely something that I'm proud of those guys. That even though they're only going to have a year with us, they're still making that investment on a daily basis, and they're pouring into the younger players that have their career still in front of them. But every day counts, and every day. And every moment matters, and those relationships are important because they're going to last them the rest of their lives.
All right, go back to Jordan, third row on your left.
Coach, you mentioned earlier making changes in the offseason. Does a new recruiting calendar with the early signing period getting moved up affect when you make those changes, or how does the beginning of the offseason change for you now?
I mean, obviously it's we're going to have signing day the week after the season ends. And for us it's every game, every day. We're recruiting. We're having those conversations with guys that are committed to us. We're having conversations with guys that we're going after. We're putting everything that we have right into the growth for this program. Which obviously it's all going into the players that we have to finish this season, and then it's a focus on where we're going and who we're doing with moving forward. And this is. I think we've got a really good group of guys that are going to be a part of that here in this next class. And obviously as we continue to identify those newcomers and those guys are going to be joining the program. It's all about having the real conversations of some of the things that they can expect and what we're going to expect out of them. And so it's all part of the process of how we're working through the end of the season and preparing for what's ahead once it's over.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.
Dudo.
We'll get started here with Chris Atkins. We'll start with Ira.
One of the things Coach Norvell mentioned after the game and then again today was just players dealing with the struggles, then that affecting confidence, and then that obviously can affect performance. What are things that you can do? I'm sure you've been in situations before where teams have gone through things like this. What are things you guys can do to help some of these guys if they're struggling with confidence?
It's always a new challenge because of the different challenges that they face. They're facing different challenges when I played, different distractions from all kind of components of this new age of college football that is kind of bearing different things. And as they get older, there's also other challenges outside of just the college football part. Some guys, I got some kids with new children, and I mean, it's always different challenges. So I think it's just trying to give them from experience and also living it, because we preach all day about how to respond to success and adversity, but if I'm not displaying that, if I'm different in how I'm responding to success and adversity, if my body language changes immediately, that kind of breathes into them. So we also got to be an example of how to stand tall in dark times, but also stand tall in successful times, because everybody wants to duck, run, hide, and kind of do that in dark times, but then you want to be out there, be open when it's going good, and that shows of lack of consistency too. So number one, it starts with being an example and sharing experiences, and also being present front and center as the good and the bad happens, to kind of give them that example. I've had players talk about people in their life that were like that, and when things were bad, they ran from it, or they hid, or they made excuses, and then when things were good, they were front runners. They wanted to be around them when they were in the news and things like that, and how they didn't want to be that. So we got to start off by being an example in the dark times just as well as the light.
I'm not sure if you allow yourself to reflect on it in season, but have you given any thought to maybe lessons learned in how you self-evaluated offensive line this offseason, and I guess what kind of changes or differences you'd make moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a learning experience just like a player. You know, I'm going through some things that I've never gone through in my career, of learning how to learn those lessons of poor decisions I made, good decisions I made, poor evaluations and good evaluations. And also, you know, different challenges, because each year, different personality, different challenge of different people. So learning how to manage that better as I move forward. So, you know, if you having a year like this where it's not this and you're going to get anything from it and it continues, then there was no point of going through the lesson. You know what I mean? You better get the lesson from it, because it would be dangerously repeat itself. So even from learning lessons from when I first got here, I didn't think, you know, building, you know, line, I was, you know, just different components of it that I got to make sure I'm applying to the future to make sure it's corrected.
Hey, Coach, we asked Coach Norvell about it, but how do you evaluate and how do you kind of look at the two quarterbacks and their preparation, especially with how the last few games have gone with under, you know, single-digit completions?
Yeah, it's moment by moment. You know, of course, the whole grand scheme of it to be executed, but as coaches, we got to look at everything moment by moment, but what decision was made in each individual moment, and was it what we asked for, or was it wasn't? If it was what we asked for and there was no result, then are we asking them to do the right thing in their skill set and their management of the game? So there was different times where you can see that, then there's sometimes where it's out of their control, you know, where they did exactly what they were supposed to do, but something around them affected whether the play was successful or not, whether it be receiver, tight end, O-line, whatever it was, or running back. Those moments are out of control, but you coach all controllable moments. Same thing for O-line. You know, I think like Darius one time we were running an RPO where he's blocking a run, and when we give up a sack, and I see the frustration in his face of like I'm not blocking a run. But at the end of the day, remember those other plays when it was in your control, when you might have lost a rep and he got hit. So it's that balance of both learning from those isolated individual performances.
Coach, UNC had 7 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, and some of those seemed like they were coming on different stunts. Just what did you see up front that caused so much chaos in the backfield?
Two things that gave trust was wide 9 techniques with the right tackle. I think he gave up 2 on that. We gave up 2, I think 2.5 on basically where it might be blocking a run, where we have a route that we're trying to get open. If the safety come down to try to fit the number in that RPO play, when we don't win on it or something happens and we hold the ball a little too long and we get hit, things of that nature. On one was a sprint out, first time in my career, where we try to get those old linemen to reach those guys because we're trying to sprint the ball out. Otto just overreached the 3 technique and he caught Luke's ankle on that 1 sack. So multitude of different things, whether it be a protection, we was holding the back end and tight end on this protection. So a guy might thought he had some help, but the help didn't show up. So there's always different things of aspects to go, but also we have to make sure that even if I'm asking them to do that, and they can't physically do it, it's still my fault, it's still my responsibility. And it might be something simple that I've seen them do before, but it might be something impelling them where they're not executing just as high as they was. They're showing toughness, they're fighting through, they're staying mentally into it, but there might be a physical incapability. So I have to make sure I'm managing that a lot better in the overall protection as we're moving forward.
Talking about the quarterbacks and really a lot of younger players that you guys are playing so many young players now. When they're not having positive moments out there, what are you seeing from them? And do you like what you're seeing from them even when things aren't going well?
Yeah, I mean, because it's all new flashes to them. And then some young and some old, it just depends on what's happening in the moment. Like Rizzy, it was his first start ever in his life at center. So what we worked on, he handled well, but then there's some flashes of things that he didn't react to as well because he had never seen him at that position. So you're going to deal with that with older. It's just how many times have they seen the flashes of the game to control faster reactions. And you see that with experience. I mean, you see that with reps counted too. So there's going to be some flash things they do well based off ability and what they've done in practice. But there's also some things that show up in games that, you know, they coaching too over there. So it's going to be something different than what you showed or displayed, and they have to rely on experience to be able to execute it. So I think that, you know, that's what you deal with. Sometimes you replace an old problem with a new problem, and you have to deal with the new problems that come with it because of the potential moving forward. So I think a lot of that is also showing up.
Coach, I asked you something similar last week, but it still seems that a lot of the problems on offense have been consistent throughout the whole season. Have you seen any improvement out of anything on offense so far, or do you think that the group is kind of stagnated through 9 games in the season?
No, man, if you go off overall results, it's been bad offense every day. We look the same each game, even with changes. So there's an underlying deal of we have to make sure that we're putting in people that are going to get better with the reps and not maintain the same deal. Now, some of that is out of control. Like, you got to make sure things that you can control. Like, for example, Jalen Early going down throughout the game, not being available, him having a big role in his game plan because of his ability level, then you lose that. then Rizzy had to play center, then the main receiver goes down, then you lose. So there's still some things out of your control that coaches see, but the result is still the result. So you manage it moment by moment. So there has been building blocks of success where you're seeing improvement, but there's always going to be a new flash later that has to be improved just as well. But if we're not stack blocking those things, and then you might stack block it with a person that's done it, and then they're not available. So now, like I say, old problems can become new problems. So we just got to make sure we're eliminating as many problems as possible on the front end. And we got to do a better job of that so they can play a little bit faster in reaction and keep them in the same situation to see that flash again.
Coach Norvell used the word shocked. He said he was shocked that the season's gone the way it's gone. You know, are you more surprised that you guys are 1-8, or that it hasn't gotten better, that there hasn't been some improvement to show that things are going in the right direction?
Yeah, it's always going to be an overall disappointment when you're not getting the result yielded for, because there's a lot of time and effort put into this. So that's why you see coaches say, you know, nobody's more disappointed or shocked than the guys that's putting, you know, the 18 hours in there every day to try to find ways to get it done. So, yeah, there is an overall disappointment of shock, but also opportunity, because we're learning lessons just as the players are learning lessons in different aspects of why this is happening. So sharing that experience together, making sure we're trying to find any small moment to move forward, because even in games like that, you'll hear coach say there were some positive, because it might not have showed up in the overall scheme, but something we asked them to do that showed up that they hadn't done before, and you got to highlight that and keep pushing forward. So I think we're going to, you know, be able to showcase that as we're building. That's why you talk about playing the young players, but you know, we've had some veteran players and some veteran moments of other people who have went through this, that had that storyline that started here, that went here, or started here. I mean, it's a repetitive deal in our sport.
When you guys are putting the game plan together, and you know, Mike's asking what your thoughts are on up front, and you know, it's year 5 and you're having to put a guy that's never played center before into a game.
Absolutely.
How frustrating is that? How do you get to the point where that's the best option for you? And can you walk us through, I guess, what it would have been like if Darius would have played center and he would have put maybe Rizzy at tackle instead, or was that not a thought?
Yeah, and also, you know, of the experience of you can take those problems and create another problem with Rizzy going against guys who had high-level sacks the week before, you know, and he hadn't seen that speed. So you can always, you know, shuffle the dice, but you're trying to put those guys in the best position as you can for the overall group in that decision-making. And after the result, all decisions have to be questioned. That's normal, because of the result breeds that. So it could have been a right decision or the wrong decision. You got to stand tall with the decision. That's a part of the job. But I think that Rizzy showed through his snapping ability, communication, that he can play that role and start to grow in it. So that's the investment of it. And we've had other guys that, you know, like Darius has played center, Rizzy plays center, Otto can go in there and snap it again. We have different guys that can go in there and operate it, that have been in games and done it, but also we wanted to shore up the guard positions. We wanted to put some experience at tackles because of the matchup that we're on the edge. So there's a lot of goals into the decision making, but at the end, the result needs to be questioned. If there's no, it could be the right decision or the wrong decision, or it could have been just the best decision available at the time. So there's still accountability on all parts of it. It's not like, oh, I made it wrong. I mean, it's still going to be accountability of whatever the result breeds.
Darius is a guy who's had some really good moments in his career here. Why do you think he's had such a struggle this year, and why do you think he's struggled to get back online at any point?
Yeah, some of it is definitely on him, dealing with the things that forced him to miss a couple games and miss time. I mean, that's something out of his control. A lot of it is on his control, too, of understanding that he might be playing next to somebody he hadn't played before, and the communication that goes into it, and also the frustration of, you know, playing back. You know, we might, you know, the quarterback might hold on to a little bit more. He might move over a little bit, or he might, you know, there's different aspects that go into the frustration part of his game, because he's had some flash moments. He had some really good moments. He had some really good highlight protections in the game at points when we were taking the shots down the field. So he better press the ball. He was the isolated tackle because we trusted him to make that block. So there's been some highs and lows for him. My main thing with him is we got basically a small time together. We want to make sure we're maximizing that time to push every day for the maximum ability he can put into his control. And to say the result is the result, but to say he isn't attempting to do that would be a false. He is giving every attempt, every swing at it he can to his control.
How big of a challenge does Notre Dame's defense present?
Oh, extremely. They play the defense the way it's supposed to be played. They run to the football. They're big, long. They're experienced. So they play the game on defense the way it looks to play when you're playing against a good defense. So they're going to present multiple challenges just like a good defense should present, especially with the guy head coach that's there is known for playing defense, and we saw him in 22 when they came here. He was the defensive coordinator, and also when Mike was in Memphis, they played him twice back-to-back in Cincinnati and Memphis. So he has a lot of experience going against this DC and the problems he creates.
You know, I think Coach Norvell's tried to create something very unique and special here, and I don't know how many staffs in the country have been together for 5 consecutive years like you guys have with the core of everybody here. But he mentions that, you know, he's evaluating everything, and he kind of has an idea of what he wants to do with some sort of changes.
Absolutely.
I know you guys are professionals, but is there any sense of guys looking around and just kind of wondering what their future is going to be moving forward?
Yeah, I don't, you know, of course, you know, we keep that head down and go to work, but I think coaches always evaluated whether he can upgrade or not. I mean, that's the job of the chief operating guy in charge. So I think like you talk about being an example to kids, if you're doing that, then you're a fraud in itself, because you're trying to get them to go through moments of confidence when it's down and be up and what's the end result. And instead, we focus on worrying about today, get better today. And if I'm doing that, then I'm just as fraud as them, and that's going to show through. So you cannot be like that, or you're going to put that into your position group as well. So our job as the leader and authority is how to stand tall and how to be and stand in front of here when you're up and when you're down, and showcase your personality, your identity, who you are, no matter what circumstances around you are going. So in order for us to ask them to do that, we have to do the same thing.
Any other questions?
Thank y'all.
Who wants to start us off?
Adam, it seemed like, you know, as that game went on, just you guys couldn't get off the field. Were they doing anything different on third downs, or was it guys just not making the plays that were there to be made?
A little bit of everything, Ira. You know, the first drive was good. The second drive, we gave up a conversion, had to make a fourth down stop on the goal line. And then from that point on, you know, the run game got going a little bit. And, you know, the third downs, whether it was a chip or a screen or a missed tackle or a one-on-one conversion, I mean, there were a lot of different reasons for it. You know, and I can go through every single one of them, you know, and you know, I just went through a couple of them right there quickly. But, you know, the last touchdown was just me trying to create a play and, you know, didn't put our guys in the best position on the last one. But there were a bunch of them in between. And, you know, I thought we started with the right mindset, and I thought, you know, as the game wore on, the run game for them, you know, they committed to it. I thought their quarterback did a good job of scrambling too. You know, it was something I was concerned about because he did make a bunch of plays with his feet. And so, you know, just a lot of things piled on top of each other. And, you know, when the opportunities were there to make a few plays, you know, we had our hands on 2 balls when they were in the air, and they came away with both of them. You know, there was a fumble there on the goal line. And, you know, all those things just, you got to make at least one of them. You want to make all of them. And just third downs were definitely something from Series 2 on that just showed up throughout the game.
Coach, you mentioned the run game. I think 3 of the last 4 games, you guys have given up over 200 yards on the ground. Is there one or a couple issues that you see consistently that's a problem in the run game, and how come you haven't seen any sort of improvement in that area?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, obviously statistics are awful right now, you know. And when you say any improvement in the area, there's been games that I felt better about, you know. But obviously last week wasn't good. And, you know, as the Miami game got going, that game wasn't good. And so, you know, there are multitude of reasons. I went through some reasons last week. So if you want to talk about this specific game, is that this game? Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, in this game, again, I go into it and I give credit to them. I think the backs, one of the better backs in the country. You know, he did a great job. He has a lot of missed tackles forced, and unfortunately that happened to us as well. You know, I thought we did a little bit better job in the A and B gaps. Not 100%. You know, they got us moved a couple times, but I thought our fits were consistently better at linebacker. But sometimes, you know, there are double teams. They call them double teams for a reason. And we try to hang in there, and we try to do a better job with the backer fitting off those doubles. You know, sometimes we're better than others. It just seems like the ball is finding some space, and then, you know, there's times that we're just not doing a good enough job in the secondary of tackling. And, you know, a lot of different reasons, you know, and I'm trying to hit some of them right there. But, you know, when you go into the game, you say, we need to stop the run game, one, control the tempo, two, which the tempo really never got to a point. It was mostly of a huddle tempo from them, so that got crossed off. Then I thought the quarterback scrambling was another thing that we had to contain, and we didn't do any of those, and the quarterback ended up being more accurate than I gave him credit for throughout the game.
You mentioned some of the tackling at the second level. I know there's rules during the week of practice of how much you can hit, and is there anything more you can do to practice that or simulate that?
I mean, we've been creating live tackle drills with the DBs now for the last 4 or 5 weeks. We try to do it as much space as possible to force them to make those plays, you know, and some of it's gotten better, you know, some of it hasn't. And, you know, the thing in the back end, when you miss one, you know, it's usually one-on-one, and, you know, so, you know, when we've played really good defense, we've made a lot of those one-on-ones, and when we haven't, and so, you know, is it the players, is it the technique, is it the coaching? And the answer is yes, right? And so, you know, I feel that we're trying to work it because I mean, I've changed tackle drills throughout the year this year. I mean, we've done live tackle drills against guys, and we're continually doing them. I mean, then, you know, the one missed tackle that KJ had was probably on the third down I probably need to go back and making it a little bit more of a different situation in practice to get him to make that tackle more, you know. And so you can overanalyze it a little bit as a coach, but that's our job, right? To analyze it, to apply it, to find different ways to make sure that he can make the play, because, you know, I believe in Kirk. I think he is getting better, but, you know, had that one miss on a big third down, and, you know, that's a huge play in the game, and the game didn't fall on that play, but, you know, each play is its own, and it creates momentum for them, and so, you know, I watched that play, and we're going to replicate that play in practice with another form of a drill.
Adam, when you guys finally cut it to 21-11, the offense scored a touchdown. Then immediately, the next play is I think a 43-yard run with a horse collar on top of it. What happened on that play? And just overall with this season, how much does that just seem to happen when you guys, maybe if you've even played well on defense for most of the game, your offense finally scores and then there it goes again?
Yeah,
how frustrating has that been all season? And then what specifically happened on that play?
Very frustrating. Can't breathe. And so what happened on that play, it's a crack replace. You know, the back we blitz it. We get a bunch of people in that place where the ball is going to get run. The back makes a great cut. Usually backs cut that thing 90 degrees, and your corner puts his foot in the ground and works it and tackles it or races out of bounds for 2 or 3 yards. That one, the back makes a great cut, and he stays vertical almost the entire play and stays in great speed and just outruns the angle. And, you know, just shouldn't, you know, I got, you know, talking to Pat Surtain, who's been in that position himself, you know, so, I mean, I feel really comfortable with his ability to coach that too. And just in the moment, you know, it created that. But I felt good about what we were trying to do in that moment. And the safety stepped down pretty aggressively, and the receiver read it, and he cracked it, and, you know, it's a crack replace play, you know, and the back did a good job of seeing it and making the right cut and keeping speed around the corner, you know. And obviously the horse collar, I mean, you're coaching those because those are because you're trying to get the guy down, right? And so that's number one. Then how you get him down is 1A, and obviously we can't grab back there and can't finish like that.
What are the challenges of Notre Dame's offense, and how physical are they up front, and how much does FSU have to counter that?
You know, they're good enough on offense, you know, to be where they're at in this season. You know, they've really relied on, you know, that quarterback, you know, familiar with the play caller, you they had hired Coach Denbrock from LSU, so we've competed against him all the way back to when he was at Cincinnati. But they've relied. I mean, they've good backs, and the quarterback is carrying the load. I think he's got 11 rushing touchdowns. So I'm not sure where that sits nationally, but I would assume it's pretty high for a good quarterback to have more rushing touchdowns than throwing touchdowns on a good team. That's probably not a usual statistic, but that's how they decided to play their offense this year. And obviously they had one speed bump early in the year against Northern Illinois, but from that Texas A&M game all the way through the Navy one, they've been executing when they need to on offense.
Corey mentioned that big run after the touchdown that you guys had. There was that similar one against Clemson where you guys scored a touchdown, then Phil Maffa ran a big one, and then against Duke as well. So that's 3 of those. Is there a through line to any of those 3 plays, or is it just kind of a coincidental aspect of the game?
You mean the play after our offense scores?
Correct, yeah.
I mean, I'll go back and look and try to, when our offense scores, to what they're going to run after that. I mean, there were just independent plays. I get the momentum question. I get that one, and, just poor job,
Following up on the question about physicality, Coach Norvell said he wasn't 100% happy with that department. Just how did you evaluate your team's physicality and effort throughout the game against UNC?
Yeah, I think anytime you give up 30 points, there are a lot of reasons that you don't play well, right? I'm sure there's been times in my career that maybe we've given up 30 and you felt really good about the effort and physicality, but probably not much. I thought early in the game, I thought we showed up the right way. As that game wears on, and they kept feeding the run game, I think there were times that we could have been much better. And that's my job to create that. There are some plays out there that are obviously unacceptable, and there are unacceptable plays when a team scores. You never want to allow that, but how it goes down is still important. And so those are the things that we got to make sure that we address and either replace or correct.
Be a different kind of question. It's more philosophical. But when a situation happens in a game where a player, nobody wants your worst moments to be on national TV with commentators just making comments about you making a business decision or things like that. When players have moments like that, what can coaches do for them? Because not letting them know that play doesn't need to define them, that they can make the play next time, and just how do you handle those situations when they're magnified more so than a missed run fit or something like that?
Well, when you come to Florida State, you have to want that, not the criticism, right? But you can't want to play and compete at a school like Florida State and hope for all the attention and all the accolades without taking any of the downside with it, right? That's part of the business. You're going to get that in anything. The higher profile, the more fame, but the more criticism. So I think that's accepted. You need to understand that, and you can't want the positive but not deal with the negative. I watch TV games to feel tempo and things of that nature for the opponents. I usually don't go back and watch ours until the end of the year, and then I usually use them because there's different video angles to teach off of, less the commentary. But there's a lot of, in this business, there's a lot of commentators that you deal with all the time in a good way, and you develop good relationships. So, they're asking you questions and constantly, but if somebody's receiving criticism on our team, and it could just be about socially, whatever it all is. That's a job of a coach too, right? Is to teach them how to tackle in open space, but also how to rebound from things that maybe they're not proud about. And one action doesn't define you as a person for the rest of your life. But if those actions continue to happen, obviously then we're still in the business of production, so you've got to, for us as coaches, you're constantly trying to support but support doesn't always equal playing time, right? And so we're just, trying to help be there for everybody in the program to make sure we're helping them along their journey. But their journey affects our journey, and we got to make sure those things line up.
Coach, just really quickly, Fentrell only played 11 snaps on Saturday, his lowest output of the season. Was that a coach's decision, or was he just banged up?
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't continue, so we had to get Quinn in there more, and then Jabril Rawls played a good amount. So hopefully we'll have Fen back here quickly. He's been pretty reliable for us. But, yeah, he only played the first 2 series. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. See y'all.
All right, we'll start up with JP. Any questions? Start with Jordan.
Coach, tackling on the edge was a problem with most of the defensive ends in the game against North Carolina. Just what did you see from them, and kind of what's the improvement that they need to make?
Say that part again.
The tackling on the edge was pretty poor throughout the game. Just what did you see from them, and what improvement needs to be made?
I mean, from a defensive end perspective, I didn't think we tackled poor at defensive end. But I mean, we got to continue to get better as a team. But like, if you go back and look at missed tackles of the defensive ends, that wasn't something that showed up.
Coach, we've seen Ryan hit some really long field goals this season. Just what was the confidence level sending him out early? I think it was 56 yards, and even after the timeout, just kind of what is the belief level in Ryan in those situations?
I mean, he's earned the right for our full confidence in everything that he brings to the table. He wants the opportunities. He practices hard for those opportunities, and when we get in those situations, it's a great weapon to be able to have a guy that you feel confident in from really probably 57, 58 and in. He's had a really remarkable season this year. He's gotten stronger as a player as his time here in the program has gone on, and he's a really confident player right now. So, that's something that we got to continue to take advantage of while we have him on the team for sure.
One of the things, I think people had huge expectations for Marvin because of his name and his recruiting and all that. It seems like just watching him before practices and after practices, the work he puts in, how pleased with that have you been, and what do you think the potential still is for him as a player?
Well, I mean, Marvin certainly, he cares a lot, and he does put in the work. I mean, he got, I don't know if you remembered, but like he was limited to start fall camp. And really, he was limited to start fall camp because he rolled his ankle doing work on his own, prior to the season even starting. In that little window we have where we give him a couple days off. So work ethic has never been a question. There is some development that needs to continue to take place at the defensive end position and places that he can improve. But because it's really his first year playing in a true 4-down system like that. But I think he has a huge upside in front of him. He's just got to continue to grow and get better. And every indicator that I have about him is that he's going to push and work and try the best he can to be the best that he can be.
Has some of the drop in efficiency for Pat been due to not having Jared opposite of him? And I guess, secondly, how is he handling maybe not having the success I'm sure he would have liked to have this season?
Oh, I mean, he's frustrated. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of guys on the team that are frustrated, especially when he leaves opportunities out there. He knows he had a chance at a play the other day and didn't finish on the sack. But I think his mindset is this: look, the circumstance kind of is where it is right now, and for the next 3 days, or 3 games, I'm gonna do the best that I can do to go put on film what it is that I can be. So I don't think he's looking at it from a standpoint of all the negative. I think he wants to make sure he finishes the right way.
Alex did a great job flipping the field for you guys. How important was that throughout the course of the game, but also how disappointed were you in some of those long drives that UNC was able to score on?
Yeah, I mean, we had some opportunities where we had him pinned, and didn't do a good job of keeping him back. And, I heard a little bit of Coach Norvell's press conference and, his talking about playing complementary football. And those are situations you got a team pin deep. If you can get the ball back for your offense quickly, it obviously helps everybody. It helps, the defense to be 3 and out, but then it helps the offense to get really good field position, and we got to be better in those situations. But in terms of Alex, he had a couple balls that got away from him in terms of location in the game, but he's been really good. I mean, I hate for him that's kind of been lost in the year, but to this point in the season, I think he's leading the country as the #1 punter, and I think as a team we're the #1 net punt team. And you're trying to find those things that you can build upon to create the confidence in what we're doing as a program. But some of that obviously gets lost, right, when teams aren't having success. But Alex and Ryan have done a really nice job, and probably aren't getting like some of the national credit that maybe they deserve based on where we just are as a football team right now.
Could you, just looking at Notre Dame's offense and the challenges they present for your position group in particular?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Riley Leonard as a player. I mean, I was very concerned about him when they came in a year ago when he was at a different school, and what he can do both in the pocket and out of the pocket, how he can kind of extend plays, and also the design quarterback run. All that is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a physical game. That's their nature. That's who they are, and we're gonna have to be able to match that physicality to go out there and be able to have success on Saturday night.
Any other questions for JP?
Awesome. Thank you, guys.